want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Madmen of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Hey, y'all.
Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Madmen of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
For you, that's right. For you.
And tonight we're talking
Shawty!
about aging gracefully. Why are we talking about aging gracefully?
Get off my lawn!
Get
Get off my lawn!
Somebody's feeling their age, I think.
Yeah, something like that, man. A couple of days ago,
Uh-huh.
I had a monumental birthday.
Did you?
A couple of days ago.
Is this your silver birthday? What?
Oh, man. It's
Gold, silver,
it's
something
my
like
ARP birthday.
that?
Something. It's my Ben Gay birthday. Or my ibuprofen birthday or something.
Might want to, yeah. I don't know if you want to go to the Ben Gay one. That might,
You know what I'm saying? If you know, you know. They need to make Ben Gay that don't smell.
you know?
Yeah.
They do.
Anyhow, so
Aspirin cream, right? Or something like that?
Yeah, sure.
Whatever.
Why that matters is because I turned 50 years old.
50!
50.
He's 50 Cent.
50. Go shawty. It's your birthday. 50 cent. 50. I'm 50% halfway there, man.
Halfway there. Hey,
50 is a big round number.
you already beat out a lot of other ones, so you know.
You know, yeah. You know, that's, and there's a lot of things along with that. You know, I mean, I've shared my story in several different places, including my first book. But my father died at 46. His father died at 46. The father before him died before 46.
So you broke the cycle.
And so when I turned 47, it was a big deal. And now to make it into that 5 number, it's also a big deal. I mean, that's a low bar to aim for. I'm not aiming for that. I don't plan for the ride to end no time soon. But at the same time, you know, seriously, like, yeah, it was one of them things, 46, but, you know, it's been a short runway, you know, for the men that come, you know, but at the same time, you know, I got to look at it like, you know, somebody's got to break the curse.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to break the glass ceiling or whatever you want to call it. And, you know, why not me? You know, might as well be me kind of thing. So
What is you?
So, yeah, man, I mean, you know, and there's just a lot of things that go along with that, you know, and so, yeah, man, just it's the whole idea of aging. The goal is to get old.
Right.
That's the goal. That's also what a lot of times we don't want to get.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's why we want to do this episode. Not only is it, you know, because you just had that birthday, and now it started making me think, because I'm only a couple of years away going, there are those milestone birthdays, you know, 16, 18, 25, 21, and 30 and 40 and all those things. When you get to those birthdays, especially when you get to like the birthdays that you just had and ones I'm coming up to, and you get to these and you're talking about, the whole point is you want to get old. You want to get to that, you know, get there as long, you know, be here as long as you can.
Right.
And how do we do it gracefully though? And I think in our culture, it's very hard nowadays to age gracefully because a lot of people are fighting it tooth and nail. Yeah. And they're not taking it for what it is. They're not taking the experience and gaining the wisdom. They're fighting just being on the planet longer and pretending that they're younger. And, you know, I think they're just missing out on a lot of the benefits of getting older and being wiser and being, you know, and taking on that role as an elder, you know, someone who has more experience that can pass on to younger generation.
Some of that is cultural too, because we don't honor age or aging or elderly old people basically in our culture the way other cultures do. You know, other cultures, grandparents, whoever, the older generations, you stay with the younger generations, you live with the younger generations until now. You know, man, we got old folks home popping up all over the place. Yep. You know, I mean, in this area for sure, man. It's like one of the, you know, it seems like anyway, one of the main things that are being built is senior living, but also just nursing homes, man. And so we put, you know, culturally speaking, we put that oldest generation, we put them in homes and stuff, man. And so we don't value aging like other cultures do. And so, you know, it's not one of those things that it means probably what it should be, especially as men.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's just part of that. I mean, I've talked about it before and I'll continue to talk about it, beat this dead horse, but it's part of that kind of war against men, war against the family. When we separate the family like that, when we take the elders out of the house and put them in nursing homes, we lose that wisdom and then they lose the support of the rest of the family. And then we all become weaker as a unit. And, you know, as we get older, we need to be sharing what we've learned to make the younger generation's life easier, to help teach them. I know in my upbringing it seemed like there was this, I don't know, thought process maybe that I was going to get everything from school, like school was going to teach me everything. So there wasn't a lot of like, let's sit down, son, and let me teach you about carpentry and gardening and working on a car and stuff. It was just, I tend to get a lot of flack, kind of like, well, why don't you know this? Well, you didn't teach me. And I think a lot of that, it probably pertains to a lot of our generation, growing up the way we did with being latchkey kids, both parents working, maybe in divorced households, and not having that older generation teaching us, which I think is part and parcel of the reason why we don't honor getting older and being the elder as much as we used to, because we don't have any examples of what it's like to be the wise old elder in our families anymore.
There's a big difference between information and wisdom.
Yes.
We have all the information that we could ever need in our fingertips. Google took care of that. That flattened the information divide. So we have all kinds of information, but I think culturally we got equally less wisdom because we lean so much on information. And that wisdom, you can't get wisdom out of a book. You can't get wisdom off of a website. You can't get wisdom in a shortcut route. Wisdom has to be curated. Wisdom has to be matured. Wisdom has to be aged and has to be ripened. And, wisdom is wine. Information is grape juice.
Right.
And so we tend to be a grape juice culture. And we're missing the refinedness. We're missing the potency of the wine.
Yeah. I mean, part of the instant gratification culture that we're all living in nowadays, and reason we do two shows. We do this hour-long show on the radio for everybody who knows what radio is and still likes to tune in, and then we do the 30-minute podcast on Tuesdays, usually for our millennial folks who 30 minutes is a long time apparently. But is that same mindset of it's got to be instant gratification and we've got to get it now, and there's no taking the time to learn and grow and gain the experience at 10,000 hours towards mastery. It's always, I want it now. And most guys who are in the teaching industry or who have achieved something, the number one question they usually get is, what's the trick? How do I get there? What's the tricks and the tools of the trade that I need? And most of the people who have the experience, and the answer is there are no tricks. It's about putting the effort in and taking the time to gain that experience for yourself. Now, you can save yourself a whole lot of time by finding somebody who has what you want, who has achieved those goals, and learning from them. They can save you a lot of time through the pitfalls and the pains that they naturally went through, that you will naturally go through, but they can ease that and speed it up for you. But there's still no shortcut. There's no pill that you got to take to instantaneously get that wisdom and that experience. You still have to go through that.
Everybody wants to go viral in whatever it is that they're doing. They want the instant jump up, the instant come up, and all that. And I'm not, I'm a big fan of those who are successful at what they do and all those kinds of things, man. I would love, quote unquote, just the 10x success. 10x success is different than 10x timeline, though. They say it takes 10 years to become an overnight success, right? And so, we see that 10x stuff, and we just, man, I want it now. I want to go blow up now. And some things, most of the long-term things anyway, things worth having, they don't come now. You cook something in a crock pot, you cook something in a microwave, it's two different dishes, right? And so, I think a lot of times in our culture, we want that shortcut. We want that, okay, I want to get what you have as far as information, but at the same time, I want the results like now. The results that you have now that it took you 20 years to get, I want that now, and whatever it is. And it's it doesn't value the process, but there's a process to all that stuff, man. And aging is a process. And so we got to put value in the process of aging, but value and worth in the aged, in that thing that's aged.
Yeah, I mean, experience, especially experience that has come through a lifetime, is invaluable. Is the most priceless thing because of how much you can save somebody else's time by teaching them what you have learned. Though they still have to go through that process, and there's so many stories, there's so many anecdotes. Like there's that one where Picasso was in some cafe doodling on a napkin, and he was getting ready to throw he like finished his coffee, he's leaving, he's getting ready to throw the napkin away. The lady's like, oh, can I have that napkin? He'd be like, sure, that'll be $15,000. She's like, but it took you 30 seconds. He's like, no, it took me 30 years to draw that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something in our instant gratification culture we don't have the awareness of, or a lot of folks don't take the time to think about what it took to get that person to that level, how long it took them to get that good. It's like the story of the guy, there's some factory and it shuts down because they're having an issue, and then they call this expert in, and he comes in, walks around, looks at everything. He opens up a panel here, opens up a panel there. Then he opens up a panel and he sees, oh, there it is. So he takes out a screwdriver and he turns a little screw like a 1/4 inch, and everything comes back on. And the guy's, he hands him a bill for $10,000. And the guy goes, well, $10,000? You just turned a screw. He goes, So then he takes out another pad of paper and writes down, $1 for turning a screw, $9,999 for knowing which screw to turn. And that's part of that experience.
And so maybe the aging process comes down to the older I get, the more I need to figure out what screws to turn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe that's what it comes down to, and again, that's a wisdom thing that only comes with time. Man. And so, these are the things this is how you age gracefully, I think. And I think getting older is one thing, getting old is one thing, but aging gracefully is something totally different. Old beef doesn't sound as good as aged beef, right? I don't want old meat. I want aged meat.
Right.
It's a totally different process, man. And so anyhow, man, what if we age on a break?
You want to age on a break?
Let's age on a break.
All right, let's get old on this break.
Mad Men of Masculinity, KLDC, 1220 AM in the Mile High City. We'll be right back.
I still hear something.
I don't want your old meat, man.
You want my aged meat.
Oh, I don't want your aged meat. I don't want none of your meat. You can keep your meat, for real.
That's right. My meat is usually spoken for a couple weeks out, so you got to wait in line.
That's nasty.
What happened? What did I say?
That's nasty. Yeah. Nikki, please edit this out of it. I mean, that guy's creepy.
Just gotta be me.
It's real. Yeah, that part, that's the part that, yeah.
I just gotta be me.
Yeah.
Whatever.
His meat is spoken for. Dude.
There's a wait list on this.
Yeah, dude. We don't need to know that, man. We don't need it. I can't believe you said that, man.
Are you offended?
I'm so offended.
You feeling offended?
Man.
How's that feel? How's that feel to be offended?
I don't know, man. It feels offensive. All right, let's rock and roll.
Too late.
And we're back.
We're back.
We are back. We are the Mad Men of Masculinity, ladies and gentlemen. And you can find us on KLDC 1220 AM in the Mile High City, on the interwebs, everywhere you listen to a podcast. You can find us on there. madmenradio.com. Holler at your boys, Facebook, YouTube, all that kind of good stuff. If you're watching us live ever, you can put a comment up there in the chat, and JBK will make you, oh, there she is. Oh, see, JBK will make you famous. As I said that, we got our number one fan, as we like to call her. There are other people, or at least one other person, that takes offense to number one fan. But yeah, but yeah, Janine, she's been there from day one. How you doing, girlfriend? We miss you. We like you. We love you.
So is this a comment on the title, Aging Gracefully? Is that what you're saying? Too late?
She put too late in there. I don't know what that means. Too late to age, or too late for Jason's,
do it gracefully? I don't know.
Jason's aged meat. I don't know.
Hey, well, see, and that's something, even joking around about that. You had the crock pot and the microwave analogy. What is better, a crock pot roast, or a pot roast that came out of like the microwave, like the TV dinner? I mean, You don't even have to think. I mean, if you ever had a good 8 hour long crock pot, pot roast, which is better. And that's because it took time. It slow simmered, it cooked slowly. And that's part of the aging gracefully thing is learning to take your time. We are so inundated, and we're in such a fast paced society now, inundated with so much information, but little to no wisdom. And wisdom takes time and takes experience, and learning to take the time. I mean, one of the things that most folks I know nowadays, and I'm even guilty of it as well, is not even taking the time to really make an enjoyable meal, making a healthy meal at home. It's always got to be real quick and fast, and a lot of times eating is almost an afterthought, and that's the main thing that we use for energy and health. Our food can be our medicine, but we're so busy running around trying to make money or trying to keep up with the Joneses or keep up with social media, we don't even give ourselves the opportunity to take the time to enjoy the art of cooking, to make a healthy meal, and we don't take the time to make it, or even plan out our meals. It's just always an afterthought.
Life is a journey, man. It ain't about the destination. It's about the journey, man. And that's one of the things I think as I get older, I'm really kind of latching on to, that it really is about the journey. When you look back, man, and, man, I mean, I just think now at 50, it's funny too, because being at 50, to some people, I'm like, oh, you just a baby. And to other people, I'm like, old as Methuselah. So it's kind of that in between, which I guess is kind of cool. But I can relate to, I think, to a whole lot of generations in a lot of different things. But one of the things that I'm really realizing is that, man, when I look back at the journey, man, there's been a lot of ups and there's been a lot of downs, been a lot of tears, there's been a lot of laughter, there's been a lot of, just a lot of failures, a lot of successes, a lot of those things, man. And so it's just the importance of us realizing, man, that this thing, this life right here, man, it is a gift. And the gift is not a destination that we get to. It's a journey, and so when we focus on the journey and how we live that journey, day in and day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in and year out, that makes a difference in what the summation of our life, quote unquote, is on that last day.
Yeah, I got that reminds me, I have a question for you, something I saw that is pretty profound, but how would you feel if I just gave you $1 million? Or even more than that? How about $10 million?
How would I feel?
Yeah, how would you feel about getting, just $10 million?
I would feel pretty happy.
Pretty happy, right?
Yeah.
Now, what if I was to give you that $10 million, but this is your last day? You're dead tomorrow.
My kids would probably be pretty happy.
But what about you?
I know. Yeah. I don't know. That changes everything.
So basically what we're saying is tomorrow is more valuable than $10 million.
Yeah.
And so if we have that mindset that today, now, waking up in the morning is more valuable than $10 million, then it changes your whole mindset about getting older and getting wiser and gaining experience. Because like everything you talked about, all the ups and downs and the pains and the joys and the gains and the losses, the successes and the failures, that's all experience. That's all part of that crock pot of Kirk and Jason. It's all part of that slow cooking of life that gains us the maturity, the wisdom, the experience, the things that come with aging gracefully or aging well. And I think probably the biggest issue with most people, quote unquote, aging gracefully or ungracefully nowadays is the acceptance of the age and looking back on your life and taking lessons from it versus what I see a lot of folks doing now is ignoring the fact that they're aging and not looking back. They're just trying to stay as distracted and in the moment as possible to distract themselves from the fact that they are getting older. And you see this happen, especially with a lot of the like music stars and movie stars and stuff, but those are the only ones you see most of the time because they're out in the public. But there's a lot of other folks that we see sometimes with the smooth windshield forehead and the big pouty lips and having all this work done, just fighting the clock.
Don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on that. And the reality is tomorrow's not promised to any of us. Like none of us. Matter of fact, we don't even have yesterday. We don't have an hour ago. We don't have an hour from now. We really have the present moment that is your mile marker in the journey of life. And so, to appreciate that and to really experience that, that makes a huge difference. And at some point, maybe in the next segment or so, I like to come back and talk about relationships and how that plays out. But, I think, a prime example of what I just was talking about. Few people ended up getting together for my birthday, and by the way, thank you, Nikki, thank you. The handful of people that showed up, man,
it was more than a handful. But it was more than a handful. Don't be trying to play that low like that. Try to play it small. You had like 30 people show up.
I mean, but there's nothing wrong with
30
handfuls.
people.
I like handfuls.
We're on the air, man.
Aged meat. I appreciate that. Like, I mean, just something like the fact that somebody would take time out of their day, out of their evening, their night, and drive somewhere. Even if it was a spur of the moment or something like that, but just drive somewhere and all that kind of stuff, man. Because there's a lot of people that wouldn't. So, that kind of stuff, man, really means something. Like in that moment, like I'll never forget that moment. Like I'll never forget, like just wow, so and so walked in the door, like wow, that's pretty cool. And but it is the journey, man. And these are the things that we need to focus on: the moments to appreciate, and the moments to remember, and the moments to cultivate into that journey that's life.
Yeah. So let's talk about aging gracefully. How do we age gracefully? And I think number one is acceptance. Like, let's accept the fact that we want to be on this ride as long as possible, and accept the fact that we're getting older, and that's a good thing. So much of what we see in the media and social media and everything else is that aging is a bad thing. But, we have the opportunity to make our aging process as easy as possible by, number one, accepting that we're aging, and then taking the steps. Because I know for myself personally, I'll speak about me and my experience personally. I was one of those guys that never gained weight and was always healthy and could eat or drink what I wanted. And that lasted until, I don't know, 42 or 3. And then, like most folks, I spent a lot of time on a job where, I'm sitting, and that after a decade of that, it catches up with you. And then your body says, okay, well, since you're not giving me the exercise or we no longer have the same metabolism we used to have in our 20s and 30s, now I'm going to slow down. And so if I fight that, then I won't take the steps to stretch my body and work my body out or feed my body what it needs. And when you fight that and you don't give your body what it needs as you age, then you're just making the aging process that much more difficult. Whereas if you accept it, then take those steps to go, hey, I'm getting older. I want to get older as best as I can in the most graceful manner as I can, instead of hitting a brick wall and going, I don't know what happened. You accept the fact that I'm getting older. Now I'm in my middle age, and there are steps I need to take to. I mean, we even alluded to it on another episode before where, sometimes, gentlemen, you got to go for an uncomfortable exam. It just happens.
You got to take care of yourself, man. You absolutely, like I said, the goal is to get older, right? And yeah, the older we get, the more maintenance. It's like a car. The older a car is, the more maintenance you got to do on it to keep it running. And so, accepting the fact that we are on this journey, and every day we get older, every day, every moment, we're the oldest we've ever been. And so that requires us taking care of ourselves to the best that we can, from day to day, from year to year. But yeah, absolutely, accepting the fact that that's part of the journey, man, that it is what it is, and not deny it, and just here's what it is.
Yeah, I think one of the things that the younger generation, I know, and I know from experience, because I was the same way, you don't realize one of the biggest gifts of getting older is self-acceptance and becoming comfortable in your own skin and accepting who you are. And getting to that point in life takes time and experience, because we spend most of our childhood wanting to grow up, and our teenage years trying to figure out who we are, and our 20s trying to define who we are, and our 30s maybe trying to settle into who we are. But all of that time, you're not accepting who you are. You're trying to figure it out or become it or whatnot. So you get to this point, and you can actually settle into, well, this is who I am, and I'm comfortable with that. I'm okay with that. And there's a whole lot of power that comes to that. There's a whole lot of stability that comes with the fact of, I am who I am, and I'm okay with that. Whereas when you're not, when you're younger, there's a lot of instability, a lot of drama, a lot of trauma that comes with that. And so this is just one of those benefits you get to look forward to as you get older, is that you may, I mean, of course, it's not for everybody. Some people never figure it out. But for most of us, we get to a point of like, yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with who I am, and I'm pretty happy as I am.
They say the youth is wasted on the young.
Yes.
And
I
when
know I wasted it.
Yeah, I know I did it too, man. When I hear a lot of what you just said, man, it really reminds me that, as I kind of get to the stages where I am now, I kind of care a little bit less about some things, and mainly people, or at least what people think, And
I have less F's to
yeah,
give.
absolutely, yeah. And that's I really do. I'm kind of getting to the point where now I'm not. I don't think anyway. I'm trying not to be anyway, just crotchety for no reason. But I find myself kind of just being crotchety, just like I really don't care what you think, and I don't like that. Or this is me, I mean, these are the ABCs of me kind of thing, and just accepting that, like this is I have good and bad, I have light and shadow, I got saint and sinner, and all that is in the same person, right? And so. And if somebody don't like it, they can kind of kick rocks. I mean, I care about people in my life, and I care about friends, and I care about feedback from people that I care about and that care about me. And at the same time, man, I'm just caring a little bit less. I'm caring a little bit less as the years go on about. I don't have to have a six pack. I never had a six pack of abs. I was in shape like a mug back in the day. But man, it just kind of is what it is. My hair's getting a little bit thinner on top, but I still look good. You know what I'm saying? Black don't crack. Brown don't frown, and beige don't age, right? So, I'm just digging it. I'm accepting it, but I do recognize the fact that I kind of care less a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that the younger generations won't ever understand until they get there. But everything is so intense when you're younger. When you're a child, you're experiencing everything for the first time, so it's super intense. And then as you get older, you've had some of those experiences, and they're less and less intense. And then you get to your middle ages, 40s and 50s, and then you just don't care as much. You've had those experiences, you built the calluses, you got the scars. You just don't care as much. And you also are much more comfortable with who you are. So you're no longer, I mean, I've heard so many times from some of the older generation, especially some of the old vets that I've talked to about wishing they had told people to F off more, or wishing they had cared less what other people thought. And that's one of the advice we can give the younger generation, because we have that experience and we are at that age of, hey, care less. Make sure you're focused on who you are, be happy with you. And you definitely want to listen to what, if there's constructive criticism, listen to it. But then you take it in yourself and decide what you want to do with it. You don't have to take every piece of advice, and you don't have to care about what everybody thinks, because you know what? They don't really know you anyway.
And there's freedom in all of that. There's freedom to just live, and there's peace in that. Where you find freedom, you find peace, man. And there's freedom and peace and all that kind of stuff, man. And let's find freedom in a break.
Yeah, let's get older and find freedom in a break. Mad Men of Masculinity on KLDC, 1220 AM in the Mile High City. We'll be right back.
Let's talk about meat.
Aged meat.
Age is different than old. I don't want your old meat.
We should bring that up. I think that'd be funny. I think that'd be hilarious.
I don't want old meat.
Yeah, that's definitely, because the difference is aged is like smoked, or there's some preparation.
What do you call it when they put it in salt or whatever?
Yeah, they're salted.
I don't know. There's yeah, but it basically prep it or something like that. But
put it in the brine.
Yeah,
whatever.
That's what I'm thinking about. That's different, man. And like I said, that's. That's where you get the toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
You get the refineness, you get all that kind of stuff from the aging process.
Yeah. Well, then it lasts longer. I mean, you can't just throw meat on the counter and go wait for it to get old, then it turns brown and green and funky. You got to prep it. Preparation, not preparation H.
We're back. We're the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Are we?
Yes, we are.
Is that what we're doing today?
Yes, that's exactly what
Mad Men Mafia represent.
There's levels to this thing, man. There's levels.
There's
levels to this thing, man. We're talking about levels today. We're
levels.
talking about going to levels, man. Levels. This is something that so I want to zoom in on the masculine aspect of this thing.
Yes.
Not many of us have grown up with or spent a lot of time in our formative years with gray-haired men. Not many of us. Hardly any of us, as a matter of fact. On the contrary, most of us, probably almost all of us, have spent time in the presence of gray-haired women. And I say gray-haired, I'm talking about even if they died, it's still gray underneath. But whatever. And so we in this generation, we have lost the wisdom, the strength, the stability that comes with a gray-haired man. And we have devalued that. I've begun to, when I see another man that is older, maybe my age or older, I've gotten to the point where I try to give them more respect, more deference. I try to let them know that I appreciate them, that I see them and I thank them and I want to spend time with them and all those kinds of things, man, because that's not something that many of us at all have ever spent time with.
Well, I mean, that runs right back to what we were talking about before about the younger generations not having experience with the older generations, and then they have no respect for it because they don't see the value.
Right.
And so they're afraid to get older. But one of the things that, I mean, and most of us have this experience. If you've had grandparents and you had, especially as a child, you had so much fun with your grandparents, and then your parents are always, know this and know that and trying to direct you. Well, part of that is part of that aging process where your grandparents have already been parents. And now they've had all these years and decades of, going through that learning process of being a first-time parent and trying out all the different things and coming and figuring out what's necessary, what's not necessary, what's important, what's not important. Then they become grandparents. And, I've seen so many times when your parent becomes a grandparent, all of a sudden you're like, hey, wait a minute. You didn't let me get away with none of that mess. You always were on top of me and throwing shoes at me. And that's because they've aged and they've chilled out. They know what's important, what's not important. And that's part of that aging gracefully is realizing that, guess what? Someone who has more experience than you, they may not have the same priorities as you, and most likely they don't because they have aged out of it. I mean, we have that issue now. I don't want to call it issue, but the younger generations find things important that we don't care about.
Yeah, and we need to care more about. We need to give more deference to. We need to look to spend time with. We need to honor older men more than we do in our culture. We honor older women, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, my mom right now is staying with me for a little while. I mean, I'd called her before we got here talking about what we're going to make for dinner. I mean, and, a lot of my friends got to meet my mom here recently. So there's nothing wrong with any of that. I mean, you mess with my mom, you in trouble. Like you better meet Jesus because you about to meet him. And so, but at the same time, I think we need to find ways to honor men, particularly older men in our culture. I would say, if there's a single mom out there, you should find a way to get your kids and particularly your sons in the presence of safe, obviously, healthy, but older men. Because there's a certain aura, a certain mystique, a certain vibe, certain whatever you want to call it that comes with being around. Because you don't find a whole lot of loud, wild older men. A lot of times older men are just really, I'm not talking about no personality and all that kind of stuff, but just really secure in kind of who they are. They know stuff. They don't need to brag about stuff. They're wealth of information. They can do a lot of things. But I think I would highly suggest any single moms out there, a lot of times if the marriage breaks down, then, a lot of times the dad begins to fade out of the kid's life, I mean, intentionally or unintentionally. And so I would say if you're a single mom out there, get your kids and particularly your sons in the presence of older men, because you can't replace that presence in their life if you expect them to be, healthy when they get older.
Yeah, if you've never spent any time in a garage or a workshop with a grandfather figure, an older man who's been working on little engines or wood or crafts or something for decades, that is a learning experience beyond any learning experience. You can learn more in a day in the workshop or garage with an old man than you would learn in a year of school. Just their wealth of knowledge and all the things they can teach you that they have learned the hard way through trials and tribulations and, trials and failures and everything else. They can help you learn things in such a way that shows you as a man the importance of aging gracefully and gaining wisdom and experience. Everybody wants the magic pill. There is no magic pill. Everything happens in its divine timing, and you will get where you need to go if you continue going in that direction. The problem is we continue to rush things. And I will speak from experience. I will use my I statements. I have rushed many of my career decisions because I wanted to be at a certain place or doing a certain job without having any idea what I was doing. And so looking back now, I realized, well, that was part of my journey. Those failures taught me more probably than the successes, though it did also give me the wisdom and the experience to go, hey, maybe I should slow down a little bit. Maybe I should take on this 10 years to be a one to overnight success. The 10,000 hour rule, that 10x comes from experience, comes from taking the time to learn those things and giving yourself the grace to fail and learn and to not have to know everything right off the bat.
Wouldn't it be amazing if we had a thing where young people went into nursing homes and spent time with older people in the nursing home?
Yes.
I mean, people who are old and, maybe feeling lonely and have kind of lost connection with family and just that young energy, and young people with a lot of energy, with a lot of curiosity, with a lot of questions, to be able to get those two. And again, in a lot of cultures where there's 3 or 4 generations living in the same house, that exists.
Yeah.
That's not very common in our culture these days. And so, I mean, it would be amazing to have young people in the present. Now, you got COVID, so maybe somebody got to wear a mask or whatever that is. But either way, wouldn't that be amazing to have a transference of wisdom or just presence of that older generation with a younger generation? Just some front porch conversations, man.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
That has been one of my dreams for many years, is to figure out a way to combine nursing homes and childcare, because I mean, nobody gets along better than kids and grandparents. And just to your point, a lot of the elderly who are in nursing homes feel forgotten and left out and don't have a purpose. But you send in kids after school, from 5 or 3 years old up until 12 years old or whatever, the age is, to go spend time with the elderly, the elders, we'll just say the elders in the nursing homes. They're going to learn so much. That's going to give purpose to the elders. That's going to give wisdom and a safe place for a lot of the children to be in with the elders. And it's something I always thought would be a great idea. Now, granted, I know there's a lot of logistics and whatnot. And of course, you brought up COVID and stuff. So there's a lot of things to work out, but just the general idea of putting the younger generation, putting the children with the elders, it's a win-win situation. It helps helps with the longevity and the quality of life for the elders, but also helps pass on so much of that wisdom, and the children get to learn so much from those who have all the experience.
What if middle school kids, before they went to high school, had to spend so many hours?
That would be dope.
With older people.
That would be dope. They would learn so much,
especially around that preteen age, man, where they can appreciate, they can appreciate the pace and the cadence of, just people who aren't concerned with social media, people who aren't concerned with achievement and with likes and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that kind of stuff, that's where we begin as a culture to age gracefully, where we begin to value that and we instill that process. We value that process in the generation before. But like I said, I think, especially from just even if you go specifically, since masculinity is the name of the show, even if you go in the specific direction of men or male or just that masculine presence, I'm telling you, man, there's something magical about being in the presence of an older man. One of my most profound people in my life was my ex-wife's father. I mean, one of the greatest men I ever know, man, and he passed away a few years ago. But I mean, man, just spending time with them, splitting wood up at their house, or just little stuff, man. I mean, and I didn't grow up like in the woods and all that kind of stuff, so I wasn't a hunter and none of that kind of stuff. But man, he, I mean, he's a old white guy that grew up in the mountains in Colorado, but he treated me, man. I mean, he was just a good dude. But just to value that, man, and just to appreciate that, we're missing the strength that comes with older masculinity. I think that's why now everybody's so sensitive, man. That's why everybody's so, I'm offended, I'm hurt, I want to cancel you. Old men ain't got time for that, man. No. Be around an old man. You ain't worried about getting canceled or offended or whatever, when you're around that. Man.
Yeah, you can call an old man whatever you want to call him, and he don't care.
Just don't call him late for dinner.
Right. And that's part of that, gaining that wisdom, because he realizes that what you say only affects him if he lets it. And he spent enough years letting those things affect him. And now he's like, I don't, doesn't matter. You can call me whatever you want to. And those are the things that old men have forgotten more things than you've ever learned throughout their years. And so just being around them, being around that confidence and that expertise and just their self-acceptance. I mean, these are things that as young men, we need to gravitate towards because it rubs off. I mean, just being around somebody who's just easygoing, doesn't take life too seriously, isn't worried about all the other BS and all the other drama in the world. These things rub off, and they are very invaluable to younger men coming up, especially if you're, between 7 and 18, because all these, as you are becoming a man, as you're going from a child to a boy to adolescent and a man, having that experience with an older man who's been through all those things, there's just something about that energy, and it's so comforting and calming, and creates a kind of like desire for that same inner strength. But if you don't have that experience, if you haven't had that experience as a young man, you don't know what to look forward to as becoming an elder.
When you remove a man from the home, from the family, you lose a whole lot of things in that household. When you remove older men from culture, you lose a whole lot of things from culture. And I think both of those things have happened over the last several decades. And unfortunately, we as a culture are suffering. And I think, I've been thinking more and more about, man, I want to be the best old man I can be for somebody. I don't know whoever wants it, like it's here, whoever wants it kind of thing. And unfortunately, there are people and places that, that are open to receiving. I love the relationship right now I have with my son. I mean, man, we text, almost daily, we talk, and, I know that I say stuff to him, certain sentences coming from me mean what they can mean from nobody else. And so I've, at this point in life, I'm just like, man, I want to be the best old man I can be for somebody, for culture, for a period, for the world.
And you can't get that if you don't accept the fact that you're getting older, if you're continuing to fight the fact that you're getting older. Now, there's something to be said for wanting to be as young as possible, as long as possible.
Right.
But that's also part of that, being accepting your age and taking the steps to make sure you are in the best shape and as healthy as you can be for as long as you can be. But that comes from acceptance. That comes from going, hey, guess what? I'm getting older, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to live as long as I'm going to live, and I'm going to do my best to make it as graceful and as healthy as possible. That takes acceptance. Gentlemen, you're getting older. Luckily for us guys, we age like fine wine. We get better as we get older, and it's a little bit easier for us to accept.
I want to be old, but I want to be relevant. I want to be both of those things. I want to be old, but I want my wisdom to be relevant to the now, for who's ever now it is. Speaking of old, we got Jamie Daniel peeking at us through the window there.
He's the oldest one in here.
I know I did. Shout out Corner Cafe. Check them out, Corner Cafe Radio. Jamie Daniel, Rachel Maines. He's about to say something.
Rachel showed up. Where was you at? There she talked about Rachel.
We love Rachel too. There she is. She's my favorite between the two of you. Just for the record, Corner Cafe Radio, my people, our family, we love them. I love Rachel.
Yeah, shout out Corner Cafe and Crawford Broadcasting. Y'all get out of here, you knuckleheads. Speaking of getting out of here, we better take a break.
Let's take a break. Mad Men of Masculinity, KLDC 1220 AM. Oops.
Yeah, you might want to beep that during the break this time.
What?
All the beeping you've been doing.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, man.
Shoot.
Everybody can hear that.
Man.
You can't hear that?
No.
You getting deaf now?
Getting old. Man, I tried to sneak that in there.
You can still hear it.
Shoot. That's right. People think that there's something on my radio. They'll think that it's in their cars.
Yeah, right. My car's gonna blow.
All right, I want to talk about like relationships.
Yeah. Well, and that purpose thing too. I mean, there's a statistic that most men after they retire last about 18 months. And that's because they feel like they've lost purpose. But the ones that last longer have something to shift towards.
Have a why.
They have a why. Yeah.
Boom. All right. And we're back.
We're back.
Mad Men of Masculinity, KLDC 12:20 a.m. in Mile High City. Support local radio people.
Yeah, man.
Crawford Broadcasting, et cetera, et cetera.
We're in your car for free, y'all.
Shows up in here, you know what I'm saying? Corner Cafe Radio be around here. Cassandra Brunson Calling is around here, man. John Rush down the hall. Holler at Rush, holler at John, man. He's doing his thing. He's an OG in town. Man.
Yeah, man.
He's a straight OG, man. He's a Mac from way back. Talking about speaking of getting older.
Yeah, right?
About old. That guy, he's got some wisdom, man. He shares some wisdom with us around here, man. You can't replace that. So talking about aging gracefully in our last segment here, when I think about relationships, man. I think about
that's a big thing.
As we get older in relationships, again, and a lot of us are maybe finding ourselves starting over in these stages of life with new relationships or new phases of life and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes we want to hurry up and rush the process. Sometimes we want what our grandparents had, but by the time our grandparents were our age, they had grandkids. I mean, a lot of grandkids, and and they had been together 30 years, so we can't have all that. But again, same thing. There's a maturing process that happens from accepting the journey that is aging in the context of relationship.
Yeah, I think one of the things that is huge, I mean, when you're in relationships, as you're getting older, having that acceptance of yourself, having that self-awareness, part of that comes from the fact that you have a purpose, you have a why. And I think, especially for men, one of the biggest things we need to continue and to focus on, not just as we're young and getting out in the world, but what is our why? And to allow that why to shift, because there's this staggering statistic that is kind of shocking, but there's about it. For most guys who retire, say they have to be forced to retire at 65 or whatever, there's about 18 months of survivability for most of those guys if they don't have something to shift their why to. They don't have some purpose to go to. If they just quit their job and now they don't have anything to look forward to, they'll go on go fishing, go on a cruise, something like that, but they don't have something to dig their teeth into, some other purpose to get into, which would hopefully be being the elder to the younger generation, imparting those wisdoms to that younger generation and giving of your experience and giving of yourself as the elder. But it's something to keep in mind, gentlemen, as we're getting older. We age like fine wine, but if we don't have a purpose and a why to continue on, then most guys will just give up. And you see in the statistics, 18 months, it's not very long.
When you have a why, man, it can change a whole lot of things. When you have a personal why, when you have a collective why in terms of working with other people, adventures and endeavors and projects and all those kinds of things. When you have a relationship why, if you're with somebody in any kind of intimate relationship, if you can't answer why are we together, then there's a problem. I mean, the two of us are pretty clear why we're here doing this thing. And that leads to us having a profound friendship, brotherhood outside of this. But, having a why and being able to plug that into your journey, into your aging journey, I think makes a huge difference just in how you age and the whatever that journey looks like as you get older, man. If you don't have a why, then, man, you just an X.
I like that. The X, not an X and O, just an X. But yeah, I mean, having a why, having a purpose is not only critical for young men, but it's critical for all men. And keeping up with your why and your purpose and allowing it to shift. And that's the thing. I think one of the things that is hard for a lot of folks, especially if you're fighting your aging process, is that there are stages, there are grades, there are phases in life. And a lot of times we try to fight those phases, those natural paths in life that we go through. And we try to fight that, okay, well, I just want to stay 18. I just want to stay in that part of life. That was the best part of life. Well, if you are accepting of where you're at and accepting of the phase you're in, and that comes with different responsibilities, different priorities, and different things that you are responsible for. If you can accept that, then you're not arguing with reality. And I think that's one of the biggest issues in the world nowadays is that we are arguing with reality. I'm arguing with the fact that I'm 47. Kirk's arguing with the fact that he's 50. Ladies are arguing with the fact that their face is starting to droop, so they put in Botox and all that kind of craziness. Accept the fact of where you are and embrace it. And then you can actually be purposeful in that phase of your life. But if you're still fighting it and trying not to be, I mean, how many old folks we've seen that are getting all the injections, getting the plastic surgery, wearing crazy clothes, and just trying to be young for the rest of their life. And they're missing out on so much of the beauty of aging and becoming the wise elder.
A lot of women listen to this show, man, and one thing that women probably don't hear as much is men find aging women beautiful. Like, aging is not ugly. Lines in your face is not necessarily a bad thing to a man. Yeah, a boy, okay. Yeah, I mean, if you 30 years old and you getting injections, there's a problem. If you 21 years old, maybe you shouldn't have a bunch of crow's feet and lines. Okay, so that's one thing. But if you 40, 50, whatever it is, that's natural and that's beautiful. And a lot of women these days let Hollywood and the med spa industry and the pharmaceutical industry and all that kind of stuff, you know, convince you that aging is a bad thing and that lines in your face and curves in your hips is a bad thing. It is not a bad thing. Everybody has their preferences to some degree, but you don't need to fight that process.
That's how you're supposed to look.
Beauty is not even on the outside. Nope. I mean, when a man realizes, when a man really understands that a woman's beauty is not on the outside, that's not the foundation of her beauty, then that's when a man is liberated from the consumption of the feminine being, the consumption of women.
That brings up a great point that you just brought up that just sparked me. Because we do deal with a lot of single ladies, a lot of the single mothers out there, and a lot of them are fighting. They're so worried about their looks. If you're more focused on your inner beauty and being that gift to a man and providing positive influence and love and support to that man, he's so much less concerned about your outer appearance. So maybe focus internally. Maybe go inside to get what you want outside.
Be his peace.
Yes.
You look a generation or two ago when marriage rates were a whole lot better, when, you know, grandma and grandpa were still together in their 80s and 90s and 100s. You look back then, a few generations, there was no Botox. There was no, you know, plastic surgery industry. There was no women walking around looking like felines. I mean, there was no women walking around looking like Daffy Duck. I mean, that it just didn't exist. You know, and maybe there was something to that. Maybe the value of the woman, maybe the value of the feminine being wasn't skin deep back then. And so maybe that's some wisdom from the aging process that we can learn that, wait a minute, what if I invested in the inside of me? What if I got rid of the baggage that I have in my heart, in my spirit, in my mind, in my past, and stop hating my ex and all that kind of stuff? What if I got rid of all of that and became a valuable, for lack of a better word, I'm gonna use the word commodity, not from a consumption perspective, but from a benefit perspective. You know, what if I became valuable in that kind of way, as opposed to just what I have to offer in a picture, in you know, and half pictures now are filters and all this other kind of stuff. I mean, what if that mindset shifted? Maybe, you know, maybe there'd be a complete mindset shift just in the single woman in general.
Yeah, and before you say it, because I know you're saying it, you're there, you're getting ready to type it in the comments. Yes, it does go both ways. And yes, men are more likely to, especially as they get older, I would say for a lot of men, they were more likely to be more internally focused and becoming the better man they are. Granted exceptions, a lot of these are the older gentlemen looking to be sugar daddies and buying boats and inviting all the younger girls. Well, you don't want him anyway. You don't want that guy. You want the guy with some character and has some experience and who has a self-awareness and a self-assuredness, which will become very valuable to you, especially if you're an older woman or an aging woman who is worried about being alone. Work on the inner, become his peace, and he will become your rock.
And that is, I mean, you talk about wisdom. That's something that you ain't going to hear a whole lot of places. But since you listen to Mad Men, we telling you from the man cave what the truth is. We're not telling you what that commercial says or what, you know, this Hollywood person says or what the marketing agency says, that who are filtered and photoshopped and all that kind of stuff. We tell you what real, regular, everyday men, the guy you bump into the grocery store, we're telling you what we think. And what we think is your aging gracefully should have a whole lot less to do with your outside and more to do with your inside. We're not tripping out about all the stuff that you're feeling like you have to be, you know, worried about, and particularly fighting that physical aging process. You can age like wine and not like beer. I mean, there's a big difference, right? I mean, so what difference does it make if you put all kinds of money into your surface, and at the same time, you put all your money into the skin of the grape, but you lose the actual meat of the grape in trying to create wine. And so
that juice is not worth the squeeze. When you just focus on the outside.
It's not. And a lot of guys will look at that and be like, no thanks, because you're a little bit. I can tell you high maintenance, and I can tell what you invest in and what you find important. And I'm telling you, I mean, he'll either look at that and say no, thank you, or he'll look at that and say, yeah, I'll consume that.
That looks like fun.
I'll hit that.
Yeah.
I mean, and is that what you want?
No, that's not what you want. And we speak the truth to you because our only agenda is healthy masculinity, helping healthy world. And so that's why you don't hear all these things out there. So as we bring this in for a landing, make sure you subscribe us on Facebook, on YouTube. Make sure you tune in to KLDC 1220 a.m. in the Mile High City on Saturdays at 8 a.m., Wednesdays at 6 p.m. And you can stream us live pretty much anytime on 1220kldc.com. And on that note, Mad Men, out.